It's like all their apps and channels are.
Welcome to episode 2 of Live. See we can get going here.
A better way to watch whatever you want to watch.
Well, I for one am intrigued.
So here we are
My
live.
dad did not know where he was from. It means the world to share ancestry with my dad in Nigeria. This is where it all started. So they broke me down by regions, by journeys, and by parents. This is my way of saying thank you to him.
Should be pretty cool.
Patients who have sensitive teeth but also want wider teeth, they have to make a choice, one versus the other. Sensodyne Clinical
Again, I
Wire
hope a lot more people
provides
participate.
wider teeth
Feel
as
free
well,
to share.
providing
Get the
24/7
Q&As
sensitivity
out there.
protection. Patients are going to love to see Sensodyne on the shelf.
Russia's President Vladimir Putin ordered the invasion of Ukraine in 2022. He framed it as a necessity to reclaim what he saw as lost Russian land, but also to wage a broader cultural war against the West. My next guest is one of the key Russian thinkers behind that vision. Some call him
Been
Putin's
working
son.
on the computer.
For decades, the
always.
philosopher Alexander Dugin has argued that Russia is not just a nation, but a civilization that is destined to lead a
See
new
how we
Eurasian
do.
empire. And now he sees the election of U.S. President Donald Trump as a historic turning point. He has a new book called The Trump Revolution, a new order of great power. Dugin joins me now
Do some
from
math real
Moscow.
quick.
Mr. Dugin, welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
You write in your most recent book that Putinism has won in the United States. What do you mean by that?
I think that now we assist a huge transformation of the global system. Trump, in my opinion, is something very special. It is not just charismatic leader, but he represents a kind of ideology that changes the balance of the power in the world. So we have the different United States, not the stronghold and the headquarter of globalism, but the kind of sovereign national state, global power with traditional values as well, with totally different agenda on the level on the international affairs. And in this new condition, I think that Putin's Russia and Putin personally stops to be the main enemy, the main evil guy, bad guy. So I think that Trumpists and the followers of Trump will understand much better what Russia is, what who Putin is, and the motivation of our politics. So we have now immediately we have discovered many points that are common for United States of America, Trump America, and Putin Russia.
I think that's a good time too, an hour every day.
What you're saying is that there is now a kind of deep ideological alignment between Trump and Trumpism and Putin and Putinism, and it is against Europe. The United States and Russia, in that sense, are now together, and European liberalism, is in some sense the new enemy.
We have many points in common with Trump's America, much more than it seems on the surface. But maybe it is too early to speak about the real alliance with and Russia against Europe, because it is against Europe. It is against globalism. But nevertheless, I think that if, for example, Trump would withdraw the United States from the war against us in Ukraine, there could be a situation that we will fight against European globalists, European liberals in Ukraine without America. So I think that Trump, sooner or later, and maybe sooner than we presume, he will discover that Putin has absolutely nothing against the United States, no reason to continue the fight, no reason to oppose or to nowhere, no field of competition that is different from China.
What do you see as the core elements of ideological similarity or affinity between Trump's America and Putin's Russia? Steve Bannon said it is that, these are two white Christian nations preserving their sovereignty, battling a certain kind of multicultural liberalism. Would you agree with that? How would you define it?
I would say that first of all, there is agreement of the realism in international relations. Realism
I want to share this link.
Sovereignty and the absolute freedom of the country to become as they wish. They could be stopped by force, but there is no supranational legitimate instance that could say stop, don't do it, because sovereignty is incompatible with that. This approach is common to Trump and Putin. And second point, I agree with Bannon, that is traditional value. So we defend Christian faith, our Orthodox Christian faith. We defend our great power, patriotism. We refuse LGBT woke agenda. We try to make cultural cohesion in our society, assimilating different people.
Even if it's just
a lot about the
you know?
importance of sovereignty.
So
I don't know, like,
is Ukraine a nation
what the
that deserves
average
to have its sovereignty respected?
amount of
United States of America is obviously sovereign. China is sovereign. Russia is sovereign.
followers
Ukraine
is for a live
could be
stream, but
sovereign if it would manage. If it managed to say, to defend its sovereignty,
so there it is.
being frontier
Facebook.
state, being the relatively small state between two sovereign civilizational states, between West and Russia. If you are not great power, but pretend to be great power, that you will pay a big price. That is the case of Ukraine. Ukraine could theoretically save its sovereignty if it could manage neutrality.
We're gonna reshare
It could become the bridge
did it from
between Western civilization and Russian religion civilization.
a different point of view, so we're gonna share it right now again.
Chance, historical chance, because thanks to the end of the Soviet Union, for the first time in the history, Ukraine had peace.
Alright, so we are watching ourselves live.
It's mentioned, but some critical decisions taken by Zelensky. I fear there is no more such thing as Ukrainian sovereignty.
The intent was that the series was disturbing. I felt that I was supposed to feel some kind of sympathy on lots of different sides. I'm supposed to feel that those who are sucked into this manosphere are somehow victims too. And I resented that. I think as I watched, the way that men are behaving is about their choices and their perceptions. We can't move from that point. They decided that, I suppose, that they're kind of dominant.
You gotta like post a
narrative
picture and then people get really
Is
creative.
actually the fact that they're entitled to
And they
women's
have to like
bodies
add a
and the
link
job
to
they
the
want
picture.
to, regardless of their efforts.
I know it's a highly complex issue that society is now facing. I wonder if that's prompted you to perhaps revisit the role of sport.
You know from our discussions in the past that it's a bit more complex than sport equals good. Sport does what we teach it to do. And at its best, for boys and men, it is a place where intimacy is not just allowed, but explicitly demanded. The idea that you throw your arms around someone, that when they're hurt, you hold them, that when you lose a game, you console them in a way that is emotionally literate. And when you win a game, you celebrate with kind of abandon, getting rid of the false ideas of stoicism, and you just have moments of joy. This is the best that sports can offer, helping young men like the one depicted realize that there's a place for them where people will care for them legitimately.
A lot of distractions today, people coming over, taking away from computer time, but you know.
To speak about this particular character again, Jamie Miller, he seems to take pride in finding a way to excuse himself from taking part in PE at school.
I hope people recognize that experience of being excluded from sport.
I don't know if you can post
fearing
on
the environment
Twitch, but I want, this
young
is
child
interesting.
is
You
not
guys ready?
exclusive to fictionalized characters. There are
I've probably been going live on Twitch, going on like 40 hours right now.
going about their day right now, whose every fiber of their being is how can I get out of PE?
I still think
How can I
YouTube probably
get
grab
out
a
of
bigger
team
audience.
sport? How can I get out
True
of that
Social, we're gonna
environment?
post on True
Because it's
Social
so
right now.
toxic, because they enter it and they are mocked and abused because they haven't yet gone through puberty. Yeah, I'm not surprised that there's lots of people who think, I'd rather not, thank you. That's not my idea of a good time. I saw a video the other day of a young man who had been racially abused, I think a football player had been racially abused by the fans, and he broke down crying, and I was amazed to watch, not amazed, that's a lie. I was horrified to watch the response of fans and critics on social media, which was, look at this man crying, which tells you that there's an entire group of people who watch sports and call themselves fans who don't understand what sports is supposed to be all about.
I mean,
I gotta get the code
sport,
again.
if managed correctly, actually be a significant
I didn't
part
get
of
any
the answer.
messages really. Like I was on YouTube later
Sports done
today.
well with the explicit goal of seeking out
You're
young
getting the
men
code
who
right.
would otherwise find themselves
Earlier today, it made no sense. Sorry.
isolated to the point of being drawn to these toxic manosphere people. Absolutely it can. So yeah, sport can do that, but I'm not sure that I've met sport leaders who are really interested. I'm not saying they need to be therapists, but they need to have more skills in that than just someone who knows how to teach a kid to score a goal or a basket.
I'm pretty sure they count me.
Picture
If
what
I'm
life could
watching
look
it
like
again, I'm
with
on. See if
Vyvgart
I can post it
Hytrulo,
on
a
Twitch.
subcutaneous injection that takes about 30 to 90 seconds. For one thing, could it mean more time for you?
It says offline.
Vyvgart Hytrulo can improve mobility abilities and reduce muscle weakness with a treatment plan that's personalized to you. Do not use Vyvgart Hytrulo if you have a serious allergy to any of its ingredients. It can cause serious allergic reactions like trouble breathing and decrease in blood pressure, leading to fainting and allergic reactions such as rashes, swelling under the skin, shortness of breath, and hives.
I want to see if you
The
can
most
post
common side
something
effects are
on
respiratory and
Twitch, like a
urinary
little
tract
link, but I don't
infections,
see
headache,
anything. Like they don't have like a wall on the profile, yeah.
It may increase the risk of infusion-related reactions and infection. Tell your doctor if you have a history of infections or symptoms of an infection. Talk to your neurologist about Vyvgart Hytrulo for GMG and picture your life in motion. If anybody's registered with the
Okay.
Senate, you know what you're going to get.
Go back to the truth.
Even though you do everything right, you don't always get what you hope for.
I wonder what happens to the
96% of Subaru Foresters sold in the past 20 years are still on the road.
like
That's more than Toyota RAV4. The Subaru Forester.
YouTube link.
This entire signal text chain
When you're live, when you're not live anymore now,
of
but
almost certainly classified information about strikes in Yemen by top
so we're
national
gonna
security officials,
post on
followed
some
by the White House's
stories
subsequent messaging efforts, really marks the first
that we're
self-inflicted
live
crisis
here.
of President Donald Trump's second term. Now, Signal, that encrypted messaging app, is something
Here's
that
some
the president
unverified
himself was quite unfamiliar with. I mean, Abe had to explain to him what it was and what exactly had happened here. Ultimately, the president advisor, Mike Walsh, who added the journalist
sources familiar with news say that the entire episode has frustrated President Trump, who believes it has marred what has otherwise been a strong and unified message operation in his second term. Trump has privately told his top
I don't know how
officials
this
to
doesn't have
review
like
the use of Signal. Go going forward.
To that
That's
text
line,
chain. Of
CNN,
course, new
traveling with the
reporting in
president
the New York
West Palm Beach,
Times
Florida.
that the president
Not
has been
getting
polling
like
allies and advisors inside and outside the White House of Walt, asking,
following.
quote, should I fire him?
That was Vice President Vance speaking in Greenland on Friday.
Times reports that Trump is privately very unhappy with the news coverage around him, but does not want to be seen as leading. And that's
High pitches, high pitches.
serves as a pleasure of the president is willing to support the national security advisor multiple times. He is bringing of gossip, and it doesn't appear, at least now, that anyone will be fired after this episode. Listen to the vice president.
We all accept that a
LinkedIn,
journalist should
think
not have
about
been
it.
excited
Posted on
or invited
LinkedIn
into the
too.
chat, and members of the administration, including my dear friend Mike, have taken responsibility for it. And if you think you're going to force the president of the United States to fire anybody, you've got another thing coming. President Trump has said it on Monday, on Tuesday, on Wednesday, Thursday, and I'm the vice president saying it here on Friday. We are standing behind our entire national security.
Now, sources familiar with his views say that the entire episode has frustrated President Trump, who believes it has marred what has otherwise been a strong and unified messaging operation in his second term. Trump has privately told his top officials to review the use of Signal going forward. Betsy Klein, CNN, traveling with the president in West Palm Beach, Florida.
Our message to Denmark is very simple. You have not done a good job by the people of Greenland.
Alright, so
That was Vice
posted it
President Vance speaking in Greenland
on
on Friday.
LinkedIn.
Yesterday, President Trump told NBC, we'll get Greenland. Yeah, 100%. Greenland is, of course, a territory of the Kingdom of Denmark. So how do the Danes take Vance and Trump's rhetoric? Joining me now is the former Danish Prime Minister, Helle Thorning-Schmidt. Helle, thank you so much for joining. I want to first ask you, as a Dane, as the former Prime Minister, how do you react to this kind of rhetoric coming out of the United States of America?
First of all, great to be with you here today, Fareed. I must say that we are taken aback by the language used by the Vice President on Friday. First of all, this whole talk about Denmark not being a good ally, that is simply not true. And it is a little bit insulting, to be honest, that we have stood side by side with America for decades. We have deployed with America. We have veterans that have been under U.S. command. And I was also thinking of them when the Vice President said that we have not contributed, because we have been with America in Iraq, in Afghanistan, in Libya. We were even ready to go into Syria to react to the red lines. So we have been very close to the United States and feel that we have been a very good friend to the United States. We're not a big country, but we have been a very close ally and will continue to be so. So we were quite shocked by those terms and how they spoke about Denmark. But of course, the most important in this whole issue is what the Vice President and what the President has said about Greenland.
About Greenland, do you understand what the goal here is? Because the United States at one point, I think, had 16 or 17 bases in Greenland during World War II. It then chose to reduce it to one base. Have they communicated what it is they want?
No, and I think that's the problem. There is a treaty from 1951 where it is very clear that the Americans have huge access to Greenland. After the war, they had, as you said, 16 bases up there. Now they have one, the Petersburg base. I've been there. It's a base very north in Greenland, and that was where the Vice President was on Friday. I think there is around 200 military personnel up there. So this is a place where the Americans have basically scaled back over the years. So the Americans have also taken a piece of the Greenland situation. So we all have to scale up. Greenland. Denmark has just decided to invest massively in Greenland security. And the irony of all this is that the Americans could do exactly the same.
I guess I missed the interview.
There's nothing stopping the Americans from getting more engaged militarily in Greenland, having more bases if that's what they want. And I do think that both the Greenlandic people and of course the people in Denmark would support such a move. So the irony is there is very little that the Americans can't have in Greenland right now without talking about taking over Greenland and all these other things.
I'm sure the Greenlandic
You were Prime Minister in the Obama years, and I wonder, what is your reaction to watching the Trump administration's policy on Ukraine turn from what I think one would generally have called very vigorously pro-Ukraine and anti-Russian, anti-Russian aggression, to what does seem much more pro-Russian and anti-Ukrainian?
There has been a very huge change in how the Americans are talking about Ukraine, and that's why it's so important for all of us Europeans, the former Prime Minister, but all of us to really state the facts. There was an all-out Russian invasion in Ukraine. The territorial integrity of Ukraine was not respected by Russia. It is very difficult to make agreements with Russia that they actually stick to. So we hope that the Americans come back to believing in that. Of course, we are all for peace in Ukraine, but we can't have peace on any basis. It has to be a solid basis where we also respect the territorial integrity of a sovereign country. This is what the Americans have always believed in. I still believe in America. I'm very close to the US. I go there all the time. So I really hope we can come back to just communicating with each other. In terms of Greenland, for example, I'm not saying that Denmark has done everything right in terms of Greenland, but let's sit down and talk about this. And again, I want to say to the American people as well, there's very little the Americans can't achieve in Greenland if they want to in terms of security, but also economically. I'm sure the Greenlandic people would cherish working with Americans in Greenland, also on economic issues. So please sit down at the negotiation table. Let's find out what the Americans really want in the States. And let's not use this rhetoric of wanting to own Greenland. Greenland belongs to the Inuit people, to the Greenlandic people, and it also is part of the Kingdom of Denmark.
Thank you so much, Helen. Always a pleasure to hear from you.
This is more serious than the
We're going pretty quick.
investments can go up and can go down.
We're already 22
Which is
minutes
the
in.
old standard warning that people got. This is really the food for lot. Absolutely. We're really clear about that. Crypto's worth around $3 trillion globally, but the point I was making was that more young people own crypto now than shares. And when people are thinking about where they put their savings, is that the right thing for the long term for them? Is that because it's easier to trade crypto? You can go on the various online platforms. It is actually more difficult to do stocks and shares. Yeah, and there's influencers involved. Social media is a big part of this. Part of this is about entertainment as well as trading, and some of it's gambling too. So there's a whole range of reasons to pull people into crypto. We all sexy. So, I'm sorry, buying a FTSE is not sexy. What we're saying is people have to be conscious of the risk. And, we're always open for innovation in the UK. We have a lot of crypto firms that come to our sandboxes. We've opened that up for support for international firms too, with proper regulation. But now, this is really the point. With proper regulation, how do you protect people from themselves?
So I noticed,
So we are very clear.
seems to be like this is just me, like this is how it might have always been, but to be just recently.
Other cryptocurrencies that are even more volatile.
I know I shared a story yesterday about scams, right? How to be careful for scams. Hopefully somebody watched it and got something out of it.
Something's going to come down on Tuesday and then it's going to change by Wednesday.
I noticed that it seems like
I often think that we've got it wrong.
it's a lot more females on dating websites
I get trouble from my
than males for whatever reason. I don't know if it's like a genetic thing, a biological thing.
Tomorrow.
Where they're like home a lot and they got like nothing to do, so you know, they'll post themselves on these dating websites and hope for a man to do the same.
The US auto industry will benefit in the long run.
Or,
I guess the long run is a very long way.
Well, I'm actually glad that you brought it up in that way, because oftentimes when people talk about tariffs, it's all about the short term. It's about panic and it's about inflation. And that's,
so this one's on a dating website and puts not looking for a man on the internet.
We take prosecutions in relation to crypto. One of the most active regulators in the world in doing that.
They want you to spend money on them, even if it's over the internet.
Than what, say, Europe puts on the U.S. And this is part of this larger.
This one goes, I ain't paying for upgrades. DM me. So she won't pay for the upgrade, but she wants you to pay for the upgrade.
Defense world, you've got to pay more in a tariff system that was really set up, in the post-war period and doesn't make sense anymore. I mean, when the current tariff
we regulate financial information to make sure they're clear, fair, not misleading, and have taken a lot of action as well. So if we put some of those restrictions in place, but at the same time, people need to be free to decide what they
I
want
don't
to
know if
do.
it's like a social thing where men are known to just probably be outside more.
It's fascinating. You look at
What it is, right?
across all the various different asset classes. I suppose Bitcoin is still probably doing the best of it. We had some numbers that you look at, you go 118 on Bitcoin, 109 on the FTSE. And if it's not going down the road of
Maybe,
and there's even £400 billion in cash. That's a bigger issue.
Even people like me that are somewhat sympathetic about
shareholder democracies and all of those sort of things. And we want them investing in markets for the long term, so they've got better pensions, more secure retirement. So I'm not saying there's no role for crypto, but we want people to take a balanced approach and also support the UK economy by investing in some of these other things.
I
think some support here.
Behind all of this is tariffs, right? I mean, we just don't know. I heard you say earlier, it's quite right. We don't know what's coming down next week. We don't know if something's going to come down on Tuesday and then it's going to change by Wednesday. And that's part of what we're seeing. I think that the amount of uncertainty is a dampener, not only for businesses, but seriously for consumers. I know it's personally impacting decisions that I'm making on a daily basis, just not knowing where things are going to be. And that's really what you're seeing here, I think.
So we have to go deeper in a sense and look at, because the president has said that, there will be short-term economic pain. And certainly everybody in automobile says, yes, car sales will fall before drop, etc. But if this plays out, the US auto industry will benefit in the long run. But I guess the long run is a very long way.
Amazing
I'm
how
actually
time
glad
flies.
that you brought it up in that way, because oftentimes when people talk about tariffs, it's all about the short term. It's about panic, it's about inflation, and that's, these are good points to make. But you're right, there is an end game here. And I think it's interesting what's happening in autos because, to be fair, U.S. tariffs on other nations in terms of autos are much lower than what, say, Europe puts on the U.S. And this is part of this larger burden sharing paradigm that Trump is more for your defense. The world, in the post-war period, and doesn't make sense. When America was about 60%, 25%, depending on what it's going to be painful.
Now, Ngozi, the WTO, said to me a couple of weeks ago that yes, there were legitimate concerns. And I guess the administration's argument would be, if we just got along and said, let's have a nice chat about this at the WTO in Geneva, we would have got his very large expense bills. Nobody would have actually been willing to do anything. And there's a certain sense in it. You don't then need to go
Well, you landed on the one thing that I think is confusing. Even people like me that are somewhat sympathetic about rejiggering the global trade system, you can make a good argument that Europe needs to change.
harder, as you say, to make that argument about USMCA, in part because Trump negotiated it. Also, and this is what I can't get my brain around. In Trump 1, the tariffs in China actually moved a lot of production regions. It integrated North America, Canada, US, and Mexico much more deeply. We're now unwinding that. Why?
They say it's rude.
That is a big question mark, and I would
ask how
love
old
to
the
see
female
some
is,
articulation on the part of the administration.
Whatever.
We all hope for fulfilling lives, but for 20% stress, anxiety, and depression can get in the way. Brightside mental health providers understand and can help you. Take steps forward and feel like yourself again. No matter what you're doing, you're not support online, work from home, covered by Indians, ages 15 up. Healing begins at brightside.com. We all hope for a fulfilling life, but for 20% of us, anxiety and depression can get in the way. Brightside's mental health providers understand. You can fix it. Take steps forward and feel like yourself again. Healing begins at brightside.com. I didn't start my plumbing business. I'm my time in an office. I started one with students. I didn't start my cleaning business. Spend my weekends working. I started one to spend them with my family.
I started my home service business with Jobber. For me.
For us.
And for them. If you're ready to build the business and life you deserve, Jobber will help you get there.
I don't know. I know that tends to be like heat of the moment, you know?
Steve Witkoff, President Trump's special envoy to the Middle East, now also the de facto broker of the Russia-Ukraine peace process, recently gave an interview that recited many of the Russian government's talking points, plus a gushing account of Vladimir Putin's sterling qualities. Instead of doing a point-by-point rebuttal, I thought it would be worthwhile to provide a brief recap of the history of U.S.-Russia relations. When the Soviet Union collapsed in 1991, the United States, far from humiliating Moscow and isolating it,
pretty quick, like I said,
they tried to integrate the newly democratic state into the highest council of global power. It eventually expanded the G7 into the G8 to let Russia in, even though Russia was by no stretch an advanced industrial country. International lending assistance to Moscow between 1989 and 1998 totaled about $66 billion by one U.S. government estimate. By comparison, total U.S. aid to Israel in those days was around $3 billion a year. The USSR created a security vacuum in years. The countries of the region, long dominated and occupied by Russia, were insecure and deeply suspicious of Moscow. America put some of them on a path to NATO membership, but worked hard to address Russia's concerns and created a new organization, the Partnership for Peace, which was designed as an association between NATO, Russia, and other Eastern Bloc countries. It planned joint military exercises and other such activities to build confidence between Russia and the West. Perhaps most significantly, the U.S. did not put pressure or sanctions on Russia as it waged a brutal war in Chechnya, a Muslim republic conquered in the 19th century and desperate to break away. Vladimir Putin came to power in late 1999. A brutal terrorist attack in Moscow, which was blamed on Chechen separatists, gave the faceless bureaucrat national support and allowed him to wage the savage Second Chechen War, which killed up to tens of thousands of civilians and leveled its capital to the ground. Many believe that Russian intelligence was actually behind the terror attack. Since then, Putin is believed by many experts to have been behind the assassinations of most of his prominent opponents, from the journalist Anna Politkovskaya to political leaders like Boris Nemtsov and Alexei Navalny. It's key to understanding the language is the strongest statement of the collapse of the Soviet Union, which is the greatest geopolitical tragedy of the 20th century. His next line was that he left millions of Russians, citizens and fellow countrymen outside of the motherland. Putin has sought to gather back together not the Soviet Union, but the Tsar's empire. That is why he seeks to dominate not just Ukraine, but also Belarus and various states of Russia. That is why he has waged war on Georgia and Moldova. That is why he has complained about the status of Russian speakers in the Baltic region. Central to his new Russian empire is Ukraine, which is often argued as a fake country created by the Bolsheviks. In fact, more than 90% of Ukrainians voted to become independent in 1991, with large majorities for independence even in the areas now occupied by Russia. In his decades in power, Putin
Still nobody on the live stream. I don't see anybody though.
Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, Georgia, and of course in Ukraine, where Russia interfered massively, once poisoning a presidential front runner and eventually getting a pro-Russian president elected. By 2008, Putin realized Georgia was moving closer to the West, with George Bush even urging NATO to welcome its aspirations to join, though NATO gave no concrete timetable or support. So Putin invaded Georgia, falsely claiming that the Georgians had instigated the attack. Russia encouraged two of its provinces to declare themselves independent countries. In 2014 in Ukraine, Putin was alarmed to see that even under his handpicked president, the country was close to concluding an association agreement with the European Union. There had been no further movement with NATO. The issue was that Ukrainians wanted to strengthen their economic ties with Europe. That led Putin to invade Ukraine, ignoring his own country's guarantee of Ukrainian sovereignty and borders provided in 1994 when Ukraine agreed to let its nuclear arsenal be destroyed. War's third largest. By the start of Joe Biden's presidency, Ukraine is no closer to NATO membership. In fact, the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky's first meeting with President Biden largely rebuffed him on the issue. A few months later, Russia launched a full-scale invasion of Ukraine designed to conquer the country and take its capital, Kyiv. The Soviet Union was the world's last great multinational. Another treatment, Russia has been trying for decades to rebuild that empire. Against the desires of the people of Ukraine and others. Putin is on the wrong side of history.
Maybe next time, maybe this time, we'll see.
The tragedy is that now the United States seems to have done this.
All right, so people in the audience in the
Like,
Westfield
share the screen, you know?
challenging you
And that'll be my thing. Like, something new that I was talking about yesterday, like,
other things that you're considering as it pertains to those activities, including firing and department discipline? Considering at this time, course, this could be part of the process for us to communicate and that we can have dialogue. We can really organize something like Democrats and a lot of radical groups.
Half of it will be like live.
And that's great live. A lot of my colleagues understand it's becoming a
And half will be like you on the computer or something. We'll see if we could.
do it because we're through this violence and we need to talk about the issues that are important for the American people because the fight elected quite a lot of good issues and that will benefit Americans. So we did that, but unfortunately the actions was very violent, and I'll tell you about the questions relating to Pete Hufford. It's kind of hypocritical that, that a lot of people are still fighting for the same due process for people here illegally, which realistically can go in a limited way. They don't feel that actually people like Pete Hufford have a due process before we're going to do any, demand resignations and take them out of their position that they were appointed to. If some innocent mistake happens, we always have room for improvement. But I think they're entitled for more due process, not a mob rule than illegals in our country that violated law and working with cartels and create dangers in the country. So are you disputing that the other side doesn't want to have dialogue? So are you disputing that a number of people that are showing up at your town halls are legitimate constituents?
I don't know if it's doing it right now. It might be doing it right now.
You probably recognize a lot of your voters, and
many of these town halls. And do you feel that that was representative of your district and the
I feel very blessed and, honored to be on that stage and performing, with the LSO. It's,
Put
one of those
myself
things
out
that,
there.
like we would talk about it here and there, but I never thought it would be like a reality.
I don't know how that's gonna look though.
You know what's saying in the brain? We mostly never.
I'll figure this out right now.
But we can give it a shot.
Sendog reveals the inspiration for the collaboration came from The Simpsons.
Back in the 90s when we did an episode of The Simpsons, there was talk of us playing with an orchestra. And I know it was for a TV show and it was, it was like a joke or whatever type of thing, but somehow along the way, people kept talking about it and talking about it. I saw like a different man up there, I guess. Like felt like something really special was going on and you were part of it. I think emotionally it took me to new levels that I've never felt before.
The concert will be released as a live album on June 6th. In Hollywood, I'm Rick Damagella.
Alexa, are you sending a conversation to Amazon?
Yeah.
Sorry,
Okay,
I
so
don't have a
something
list of
something went wrong for sure.
Headlines starting March 28th. Voice recordings of everything you say to Alexa.
Hope I have done this a little early. We'll find out.
Have read about applies to only a small number of users. You have a specific version of the device, use it in English, and to process your voice data only on your device. That's about 0.03% of Echo users. Time for a little chat with privacy expert Robert Grant. He is doing himself to their survey. Just healthy people
The change always matters because it's an incremental loss of control. People are using the space where their data is stored, whether or not it's compete for their benefit and not for Amazon.
Voice recording.
Like I said, put myself out there right now.
What
I did notice is
Well, if you have a real-time recording, it's
Like-
like usually don't have data.
what's trying to upload is
There's a lot more ambiguity. So when you look at an automated transcript,
I guess you
there's
guys
a lot
can
of
hear
uncertainty.
having their voice recordings sent to
And,
Amazon. Although it says those recordings will be automatically released after election.
that happened last time, so I'll figure that out.
So, designed to protect customers' privacy and keep their data secure, and that's not changing. The company said, we're focusing on the privacy tools and controls our customers use most and work well with generative AI.
Trying to upload.
What about Amazon says the device will only start recording once you said Alexa?
How often have we had these go off by accident? How many times have you been on a
I was trying to
phone call
upload the
or
live
been in a
feed.
conversation with someone and you heard their phone or their device chirp just because it was activated by mistake? It happens all the time.
And Amazon says customers can see exactly what Alexa heard and sent to Amazon's cloud in the Alexa privacy settings and manage or delete those recordings. What is your message to Apple users right now?
Turn it off when you're not using it. Unplug it. Even putting a cover over it could be enough to muffle the sound and give you a bit more peace of mind. And most people, I don't think that they'll actually
It wasn't loading.
But what they will have is that constant uncertainty about whether they have enough of privacy to actually speak their mind freely in their own.
Like it took forever to load, I
400
guess.
meters, and I can just see that something for my eye. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've got this. And like, I didn't just feel my body when I stopped walking. It's an amazing feeling. We see that stand there with things talking during that moment. It's usually the biggest goal that I've had in mind. It's very exciting.
how my life's going. Like I'm gonna have to do a whole bunch more media now, and it's really like a big change, but it feels great.
I want to ask you, Dad, how proud are you of him right now?
Sorry about that. Tried something. Exactly goes
time was fought back by the pain of not breaking four. And he was on to the mile or on heaven, and he's 15 years old, and he's already done what I couldn't do when I was in my mid-20s. And also just the way that he's conducted himself and remained humble and just being a great kid. Something I'm really proud of.
Going back to school afterwards, what was that like, and what was the reaction from your classmates?
Definitely a bit scary. Like when I first got to school, I was supposed to come to the office and
I'm so
alright, so you're gonna have to get the whole sort of scary. Like it was really scary actually. Now I headed to class and everyone but I was famous. So it was quite scary.
This is life-changing for you, Sam, no question about it. How do you have a normal life on the same time?
I'm actually just going to have to take a lot of farm skills to go race, so I'm lucky I've got my dad here who can teach me quite a few things about school, but Mama's not too happy about it. I don't think she's going to want me to go and have these take part of school, but
life is a little slower now.
And I'm ready for it.
Your running shoes must mean the world to you. Now I'm learning you're willing to part with them. Why would you give them away?
I'm actually got them here right now, so these running shoes are probably one of the biggest things.
I don't want to restart it either, but
them. Absolutely love them so much. Like, couldn't think of a better running shoe, and honestly, just auctioning them off and giving some profit to Coach
I'm still trying to figure this out, though.
All of it, my success led down to Craig, and also some of it led down to Santana, obviously, because I won't be able to run the times I have without them in my life. All the money is going to the squad that Sam's involved in.